Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news from Star Citizen from the week just past. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week we check out weather and atmosphere on Hurston and its moons. The group system gets an update in prep for the VoIP and FOIP feature coming in 3.3, plus all of your questions for the RSI Apollo gets answered. So on Calling All Devs, the first question was, it's difficult to find flat landing surfaces. Will we eventually be able to pull ourselves up onto the ship? Very good question, which has been addressed in the past. They said, yes, this is known as mantling. They are working on vaulting and mantling at the moment. They're looking into a procedural way of doing this. So if the surface is at the right height, you'll be able to sort of get up to it. ATV a little while ago did show the extended animations, which extends the player's animation to some motion. This will allow us to jump up over multiple heights in the verse, so it doesn't have to be a specific metric everywhere. It can be varied, and your character will adjust, which is very cool. The next question was to David Coulson, who is actually the IFCS, the new IFCS guy, who sorts out the physics and so forth. Took over from John Pritchett. Question was, why can't we decouple at cruise mode anymore? Without losing speed, and apparently that's just a bug. They are moving to a system that allows you to remain in cruise mode and move around slowly. So yeah, that's happening. Next question, are we going to see big changes in atmospheric flight with Hurston coming in 3.3? Now they said there's a lot more to do. They're not happy with the current flight model. Ships do need more tuning. 3.3 they say is unlikely to be different, but they are consistently working on updates. The Hurston planet is to be their tier 0 of the planets itself. Atmosphere, weather, etc. will be added more later. Hurston's atmosphere is to be more dense than the moons that we currently have, so that will be interesting to see how our ships handle. But we have seen them doing tests with wind on Hurston. It does sound like Hurston, or certain areas of Hurston, will be quite windy. Hopefully this will all affect the ship's handling and maybe bring some danger to the planet as well. So final question, will there be a way to pursue and evade people travelling through quantum travel? Now they say they've not got to design this feature yet, but they do want you to be able to detect the quantum trails. This will give an indication as to the route or what particular ship it has taken and determine the course of how long ago it jumped. That I think is very cool, so being able to track your targets is something I think is needed in bounty hunting specifically. But ship types, stealth skills, components, these will all affect how well it can be done, and also there will be ways to defend against it and so forth. So masking or detecting jump trails will be a really good bit of gameplay. Finding clever ways to avoid being detected as well will require some skill. So if there's a constant area where people are jumping from, heading over to there and then jumping will make it harder for people to track your specific trail. It sounds like a small feature, but it's gonna be used a lot, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. Anyway, that was Calling All Devs, guys. Just a quick 4 questions. Do let me know your thoughts, and let's move on. So first off on Around the Verse was they took a look at the group system updates. They've removed the legacy contact mechanic, and an updated version is currently in research and development. They're improving the chat and the group related messages to the player, introducing a 3-pane comlink which is able to access contacts and different channels and actually manage them as well, which is great. They want us to manage custom groups and customize permissions for individuals, sort of setting roles for people and to ships as well. So what people can access and get access or get into on your ship. They're working on the UI to house all this at the moment. The comlink will include the ability to flag different channels and provide a voice and face over IP feature as well. The notification system is being redesigned to feel a little more in-world and less intrusive, and I personally am very happy to hear all this. The VoIP system, or the voice over IP alone, will be getting chat in-game, and that will really help when trying to play with others and just interacting with even strangers in the world, but also hearing about permissions and allocating roles and permissions to ships will just be great for multi-crew full stop. So I cannot wait to hear how all this comes together, and also how the VoIP sounds. I'm sure it'll be tier 0, so it might not be finished, but it's going to benefit us so much. Anyway, they are getting close to ship and component rentals in Arena Commander. Turrets are still being fine-tuned. They have found that under high latency situations, the aim assist does not work well. Pips tend to jump around, so they're improving this and converging the assist to be more accurate. Another improvement they said they're making is changes to the input system. So as you move the cursor, this can be with HOTAS or with the mouse, it will aim the turret, or it will move the turret to where you're aiming. They've made this a proper sprint for 3.3. We have heard them address turrets before that if they can't get that finished, then there's no point in starting something else. So they're focusing to get that done, which is good in a way, rather than leaving it half finished and moving on to something else and then having multiple half finished entities around. But without testing, I can't say for certain if it will work or not. I have found that the target tracking to be not really a benefit, more of the issue. But so long as it settles and doesn't keep moving as you're moving the mouse, that'll be a lot better. We will test it as it gets into the game. Now, on to sort of planets and moons, especially for Hurston. We got an early look at the atmosphere test for Ariel. This is one of Hurston's 4 moons. It looks like the acidic environment moon. Great colours, and I do hope that some of these areas, like the green areas, are toxic to maybe players, but mostly dangerous to ships, resulting in this no-fly zone that they're adding to 3.3, causing the player to have to land and then explore on foot, potentially in like a hazardous exploration suit. That would be very cool. Imagine doing that as a team with VoIP. For Hurston, the environment team is tweaking the look of the wilderness. I do have to say it's going to be incredible when we finally have more varied landscapes with trees and foliage and walking around forests. They're also doing a scale test for the exterior walls of Lorville as they put this city together. It looks just massive. It is going to be so exciting when we get to walk around Hurston for the first time. It's like the first big proper city. I know Area 18 was in, but that was very unfinished and pretty small, so this is going to be even better. They're working on wind effects and weather on Hurston, ensuring that it affects the environment as well, and it sort of looks like it's going to be very windy on Hurston, which should be quite fun, especially trying to fly in it. Now, quick ship shape to finish off with. The 300 series is getting slimmer. They want to make it look a little sleeker than what it was. The Phoenix is having the recessed hot tub found at the rear of the ship designed, and the Hammerhead interior damage states are getting worked on. More to come on this ship in the upcoming ship shapes. Anyway, that was ATV, guys. Let me know your thoughts. So this week brought the Robert Space Industries Apollo Q&A. This is the latest concept ship, which is a medical sort of clinic-style ship. First question being, will there be any interactable doctor gameplay to healing, or will it just be the bed auto-healing players based on the bed's tiers? And they said that the doctor medical gameplay is not fully signed off yet, but they do want players to interact physically rather than just pressing a button. Very similar to what we see with the mining mechanic. All these mechanics are going to be interactable and require some level of skill, and I'm very excited to hear what they have in mind for medical gameplay. Next question, what happens to players as they are waiting to be picked up? Now, the plan is for the player to be physically immobile during pickup, transportation and healing. During the implementation process, they will review how it feels and perhaps provide some level of interaction. But during the downtimes, players will have access to feedback notifying them of their current state and a rough time limit to getting back to health again. Will NPCs requiring treatment spawn on your ship? No, NPCs will be collected or need to be collected and transported like other players do. Next question is, can the Apollo expel players who refuse to pay? Now, they said that the Apollo itself provides no method to do this, but it'll be down to the owner of the Apollo to remove uncooperative patients. How do Apollo scanners compare to other ships? Now, the Apollo is equipped with a large scanner. This means that they won't differ as such from other large scanners like on a Carrack, for example, but large scanners have higher ranges and spread and also give more accurate details. Next question is, what happens if the freshly healed player refuses to pay? And they said that they expect players to prepay up front for treatment, so there shouldn't be any problems there. What tier of beds will capital ships have? Now, if the ship has a dedicated med bay, then they will generally have a higher tier bed, but it's unlikely that capital ships will have enough high tier beds to support the same amount of casualties should that ship begin getting attacked or whatnot. So med bays will have possibly up to tier 1, most likely tier 2s, whereas your proper ships, your proper medical ships will have much better abilities. Are there any injuries the Apollo cannot fix, but the Endeavour can? And it says if the Apollo is fitted with a tier 1 bed, they will have the same function as a tier 1 bed on the Endeavour. However, the Endeavour will have room for more beds. Are there any more Apollo variants planned? And they say there's nothing in the plans at the moment, but they do want the Apollo to stay focused on its role. Can we sleep in a hospital bed and log off? It's not something they plan to allow, but they will review that later as the gameplay comes online and decide. I can't decide on that one either. Next question is, are we limited to only a pilot and a doctor as crew members? Now, they say that the roles are not strict. They do envision that both players taking part in the recovery and treatment, while landed, docked, or maybe flying in a safe space, both crew can help. Personally, I see additional crew members maybe a couple of crew members being really helpful for this. Will the Apollo have a respawn beacon too, as it has a tier 1 bed on board? Yes, the beacon is very similar, they say, to the current service beacon, and requests for medical assistance will all be done through those, so yes, it will, very much like the Endeavour. Will there be a cooldown for respawns for individual players, or will it be limited by the Apollo's resources? Now, this is something I didn't consider. There will likely be a cooldown period to promote death being a serious consequence, but it is also limited to the Apollo's medical resources carried on board. Now, each respawn or recovery will use up certain amounts of the equipment or consumables required for the medical gameplay. I do love this idea that you need to replenish your stock on board in order to keep operating, which would in time require you either to get a delivery or go and restock. Next question is, how do you envision the balance between medical gameplay and time to kill? Time to kill, they say, will likely increase as they bring more features online. However, they will consistently review and amend until it feels fun and immersive. They did also say expect a bit more UI feedback, but I don't want it to be too long for time to kill. I don't want it to be like a bullet sponge like you see in the games like The Division. But we will see. As they say, they've got to review it. They've got to just see what it feels like and make sure that it's fun and immersive. Next question, what is the advantage of having an Apollo over a Carrack with a medbay, for example? Now, the Apollo's medbay can hold more people than a non-medical focused ship, obviously outside of capital ships, and it allows to heal in ways the vast majority of ships cannot. Will tier 1 bays support everything the lower tiers can do? Yes, they will. Does removing the medical modules increase the amount of SCU it can carry? And no, the medical modules cannot be removed. Can bounty hunters and slavers use the drones to retrieve unconscious hostile players? Now, they say that the drones simply require the player to be immobilized or unconscious. It doesn't lock them into the bed, so unless you monitor them, they could either die if they're too fully injured, or try to escape, requiring further restraint. Will the Apollo have outlaw applications, maybe organ harvesting? And they say that organ harvesting isn't something they plan to support in the medical career. Doesn't mean it won't come in a different way. Can the Apollo owners set their ship up to be not an active spawn point? And they say that when playing in a party, players will automatically be given the option to spawn on board your ship. Obviously, non-party members won't. And then finally, are the medical consumables stored in the medbay, or will they take up some of the 28 SCU room? Now, they are stored in the cargo hold, so they do take up some of that standard cargo unit space, but the plan is to balance it so that even on the most intensive medical missions, you'll still have room to store regular cargo. So that was the Q&A for the Apollo. I hope that's answered the majority of your questions. If you do have any questions, do pop them in chat. I'd love to know what they are. Also this week, Lawmaker's Guide to the Galaxy took a look at the Bacchus system. August's Subflare is a cool pair of flight undersuits, one red, one blue. Reverse the Verse this week was the monthly happy hour in which Jared set with concept artist Jeremiah Lee to play Star Citizen. He did get trolled. And finally, there is a post highlighting all the bar citizens that are going on while you are attending Gamescom. I highly suggest going. I went a couple of years ago and had a great time hanging out with many of the Star Citizen developers and even more of the Star Citizen backers. So if you can get there, check the link below. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share the video with all your friends. If you like what I do and want to help me make it better, follow the link below to my Patreon page to learn more.